What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Lion's Den with Seth, and I am Seth. So hopefully everything is good with you. My other partner in crime, Herm, is out for the episode, but it's okay. You know, he had to take care of some things, but we'll go get this ball rolling. So hopefully everything is good with y'all. If this is your first time tuning in, make sure you are following the Lion's Den with Seth, right? So you can get notified and make sure that you get all this goodness, all right? And also, if you're watching this for the first time on Facebook, make sure you go to facebook.com/the Lion's Den or StreamYard, just so that you can comment and so it can pop on up. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, during the last few episodes, we've been talking about the transition of the military, individuals that have done so many great things for so many great years, right? What happens when that time is over? Okay, so we talked about how it feels emotionally, okay, especially for those that have transitioned around COVID time, like myself. How was that mentally or even physically? There's some individuals that kind of let things go, all right, after the military, but it's still a transition. But today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so happy and so pleased to talk today about individuals that are using their intellectual property to fill gaps in the transition process. Okay, so I want to talk to you a little bit, first of all, about what some individuals don't receive. All right. And what I mean by don't receive, it's the type of help, the type of support, that type of let's say coaching, if you will, or even mentorship. And I remember talking to an individual the other day as far as the military, those of you that have served, no matter what branch, but those of you that have served, there's something called the basic training. All depends. It's either 6 weeks or 8 weeks or 12 weeks, right? All depending on the armed forces that you've signed up with. All right. Then you have your tech school. Within your tech school, that's when you actually learn your job or whatever it is you said that wanted to go in for. If it's just to be a cook, to be a IT specialist, to be a physician, whatever the case it is, whatever, right? Mechanic or civil engineer, there's a time frame for that. So you have basic training and then you have to learn your job. If you think about it, ladies and gentlemen, there is, let's say, weeks, even months, sometimes even years before you actually start to do your job, believe it or not. And so it's a transition. All right. It's a transition into the new world, into your newfound career. However, the issue is, and that individuals that have been in the military, they do understand that there's something about transitioning out. All right. And as we transition out, there isn't a lot of emphasis on what it takes to get out, not just with TAP. TAP stands for in the Air Force, the Transitioning Airman Program, or excuse me, Assistance Program, where they give you surface level information for finances or even medical, and sometimes even to help you with your resume, all depending on how long that that program is, right? However, there's certain things that you are going to hear but you're not going to truly listen to, and it's a lot of information, a whole lot. So then when you finally do get out, you're like, okay, so what did they say? What's happening or what's going on? Yo, Big Herm, what's popping, man? What's going on? But so when you get all of that information, right? And when there's a fire hose full of information and you're finally out, okay, if you haven't prepared yourself correctly, you are stuck and you're afraid, you're nervous, your anxiety is up. Okay. The first thing that comes to your mind is, okay, how am I going to take care of my family if you have one? Or what am I going to do? How am I going to eat? Or not necessarily eat, but how am I going to live comfortably? All right. And so, ladies and gentlemen, my guest today, I mean, I had the pleasure of having a conversation with him and having him to, I guess, present this opportunity and the things that he is coming up with as far as innovation to help bridge that gap. So, look, listeners, right? We have an exciting, right? This episode is going to be very, very exciting, and I want to introduce to you Zachary Oshinbanjo. Okay. Now, Zachary has made waves in his field as far as innovation and his ideas and his relentless drive. Okay. He has a goal, he has a passion. He's determined to help you, the veterans, to get where you need to be after the military. So, ladies and gentlemen, y'all help me to give Zach a round of applause.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah. What's going on, brother? How you feeling?
It's a nice, pretty hot, pretty warm Sunday here. Just taking it all in, getting ready to get the week rolling.
That's right. That's right. So, ladies and gentlemen, before I get into how we met and what he actually do, I'm gonna let him talk about himself. I'm gonna give you a little background of how everything transpired. So, if you guys don't know, I work with a great organization, okay, called a VetBiz, and a VetBiz is how can I say it, man? It's great. It's an organization that helps the let's say individuals that's transitioning out or currently in the military, even their dependents, right? We help them to grow as entrepreneurs, right? We provide no cost service, including the training, consulting, mentorship, right? To help the clients transition their military skills, right, into business and success and through the lens of entrepreneurship, right? So I had a great opportunity of going to Kansas City and listen to this young man give his pitch. Okay. And that's how I said, wow, Leo, this is right in line. We need to have this conversation. So before we go into what it is that that you're doing, tell us a little bit about who you are.
Sure. So I'm pretty much born and raised in the Kansas City, Missouri area. Went to school here, and after I completed, that K through 12 education piece, I decided that I was gonna try to go and get some of that initial education to go into patent law and get some information on that. That pathway didn't necessarily prove out, as a lot of people find out, or a lot of people are finding out now, that that's not the traditional path. It's not necessarily the path for everyone. So I quickly ended up going and enlisting, ended up choosing the army, and then I went into the infantry, and I kind of, that accelerated path led me to make a lot of discoveries, not only about myself, about the lives that a lot of armed forces members experience, and some of the challenges and obstacles that civilians may not even be aware of.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Well, look, I appreciate that, and that's super dope. Name one of the obstacles that you have seen while you were in that the civilian sector has no idea about.
I would say, from a private sector's perspective, there's it's a very popular push, and it's very, and it makes a lot of sense. But for like DE&I, for
Mhm,
sort of those initiatives and things that have to be kind of almost mandated on a private sector perspective, it's not as driven, I guess, in the military community, because when you enter your unit, you get to your unit, you're being put into a squadron, a company, or whatever size element with a bunch of people from all walks of life, and you need to be able to have that camaraderie, that relationship immediately, because you have, lives on the line. You need people who need to be able to do job A, job B, without really having to get into a lot of those components.
yes, 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 absolutely, absolutely. So, um, and so you're originally from where are you originally from? You say Kansas City?
Originally Iowa, but I was only there for a stint, so I claim Kansas City.
You claim Kansas City. Okay, cool. So, so as born and raised, or raised in the Kansas City area, and then you go into the army. And now, how many years did you do?
I did 4.
All right, you did 4 years. Okay. How was that transition out? Well, first, wait, let's talk about the transition in. Let's talk about the transition in. How was that adjustment?
I got to tell you, I wasn't truly prepared. I think I did about a delayed entry, couple months or so I could wrap up some of my personal affairs around Kansas City. Then I ended up going in, and most of my life I've kind of, I'll say, I was in the book, into the book life. I read, top of my class. I was top 5% of my graduating, that whole spiel. And then I ended up going into the infantry, which is, it was just a thrust of just a completely different lifestyle. It was very rapid. You really have to be able to, move and communicate. So it's really trying to adapt into that environment, and I had to learn it really quick. I landed down there in Fort Bennings, and I got real accustomed to some different professional development that the military has.
You said something different. Different, yeah. So what made it different?
you know I think it's, like I said, it's a lot of the, I don't want to say it's behind the scenes, or like this idea that it's something crazy or anything off coming off. It's just something you don't experience, or you can't explain it. Sort of the tactics and some of the conditioning that's necessary to be able to build this well-oiled machine so that it can operate at this level of efficiency.
There you go.
Those practices aren't the same as the traditional path as a private sector route. You can have your company HR meetings, you can have your sort of your KPIs, your OKRs, or those sort of things at your company, but you're
Mhm.
not going to drive at the same progress, uh, you know, that you would as, like onboarding someone into the military. It's just a different route, because you need to be able to perform at a different rate.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, cool. So you did 4 years and everything. You're like, okay, cool. I'm done with this. I'm done, son. Now, how was that transition out?
again, it was a culture shock. It was a culture shock to go in and the culture shock to go back
Mhm,
out, because at that point, you're kind of used to the system. I had, been with my unit, I deployed with my unit. This was a really good, close knit group of guys that I was really connected with, because like I said, during that deployment, infantry, I was attached to a scout unit. So they're running up mountains, and I was a mortarman, so I was hoofing it with them, taking my
mhm,
60 with me.
mhm,
And so that kind of process, and then it kind of just shuts down immediately. You're like, oh, okay, so now I have to go essentially find a new family, new friends, new coworkers, a new job, because even in that job, when you're in the military, you always kind of know what you're going to do
mhm.
when you don't have that sort of day-to-day certainty, I think, in the private sector. So it was really trying to address that challenge immediately.
I can relate, man. And again, when I got out of the military, it was during COVID, and so the world was already shut down. Okay,
Hmm.
and so when that changed, don't get me wrong, it was a relief. Okay, as far as putting on uniform and all that, going into work, doing what you got to do, blah blah blah, right? And but then when you get done with that, it's like, okay, it's cool. I'm done. I'm done. But
Yeah,
but there's a certain, I don't know what it is. It's that camaraderie. It's that everyone
yeah,
is embracing the suck together.
yeah,
And it's like it makes it that much easier. And to your point, it's like having a family. And when you retire or you separate, it's like a divorce. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm done. So we're still over here getting it in while you're over there. So it's more or less having that thought process of now you're a has been, right? Or now you're officially old, or you're not a part of the cool kids anymore. And so, how did you deal with that part of the separation?
yeah. It was tough. I think one of the biggest things that really came up was my unit was actually mobilizing to go back to NTC to go on another deployment cycle. So I was in that weird window where I was like, I became the in the middle where I was like trying to communicate and hang out with some of the guys from my unit, like, hey, let's go, let's hang out or something. Like, oh, I have drill, I have a layout before the layout, that type of
Mhm,
thing. So it's like I don't have time for those things. And my obligations weren't as kind of robust as that. It was kind of to show up, be accountable, make sure that I was providing whatever the commanding officer needed at that particular time. So you know it was that created a little bit of separation, but that's just that natural process, like you said, like you likened it to divorce. It's yeah, we're cool and all, but we still have our obligations and things that we have to do on a daily basis, and there's some ramifications if we don't do that. You're on a different path, a path that leads out of the military. It's not like a complete disownment. It's the path is different, and the obligations don't necessarily align to make sure that you have time to be, the same social
mhm,
Brady Bunch that you used to be.
mm. Yeah. Okay. And that's how the transition in is like. All right. And that's a whole different conversation. We touched on it a little bit last week, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure y'all listen to that. Okay. As you get into the military, how things change as far as home is different. And when you come out, it's more different, if that makes sense. Right. There's a whole, yeah, yes, a whole slew of things. But ladies and gentlemen, again, we're here on the Lions Den talking to Mr. Zach, and we're getting it in talking about building a business after serving in the military. Ladies and gentlemen, there's so much intellectual property that you have that if you don't tap into it, you're going to just go around aimlessly like, wow, I did A, B, and C for X amount of years. How can I provide a service? How can I still provide a service? So, Zach, you ready to talk about intelligent?
Let's do it.
You ready? All right,
I'm
cool. All right, so tell us a little bit about it. Sound like you just made that word up, right? So you took two words and put together, said, boom, that's what it is. Tell us about it, bro.
Yeah, so it's a combination of the words veteran and intelligence,
Mhm,
intelligence. And so really trying to explore all the offerings available. This isn't an idea that there's a lack of resources being afforded to military service members,
mhm,
because everybody's well aware of the big triple letter organizations out there that work in this space, and they've been around for a while. There are 18,000 of them active in the United States.
mhm,
So with that being said, it's an idea to how can we further enhance this process? Because this is an idea that has been around fundamentally for a long time. A lot of people have transitioned out of the military and aren't necessarily making the connections or closing the gaps that they need to along the way,
Mhm.
even with the numerous number of resources available. So it's how can someone make sure that there's a complete continuity of transition from the
Mhm.
military, no matter whatever your branch, no matter whatever your job, no matter whatever your years of service, into a civilian role, because it's not necessarily, well, I won't even say not necessarily, it's not the responsibility of the employer to, go through some sort of seminar or a didactic to understand every sort of military convention. It would be impossible.
Mhm.
On the so I guess on the other side of the coin, it's on the service member to be able to communicate their skills effectively. So
That's right.
what I try to do is have people meet in the middle. So service members are communicating effectively, and then there's a body of employers who are ready to receive this information and are
Mhm.
ready to digest it in a way that makes sense to their organization. So
Mhm.
that is kind of what the crux of intelligence is.
Okay, so essentially, you're saying that this program will take what an individual has done in the military, okay, and spit out plain English for an employer. Is that what you're saying?
That is what I'm saying.
There you go. You see that? Hey, make it sound simple. So look, now talk to me though. Tell us a little bit of the inspiration behind starting this.
Honestly, it was some of my own trials and tribulations of trying to transition out of the military. I thought, yeah, I had all these sort of accolades and sort of what I went through in school. I'll be able to go into the military. I'll be able to get out, and then I'll be able to jump right back into it where I was. But unfortunately, what it really came down to is a lot of people kept referring me, "Oh, you're an infantry guy." Well, we have, not knock against it, but it's like, oh, we have numerous stadium security jobs. We have, you can walk around the hotel, hold your little belt, stuff like that. I was like, I, that's not what I had in mind. I like I said, if you do that, like I said, it's never a knock against that. But I felt like I was being reduced and put into this box. Like
Mhm.
that's all you can do. You were infantry. This is your natural progression. And
Yeah.
it really was. I got tired of having that conversation. So as with anything where you get tired of having the same process over, automate it or streamline it in a way that makes it easier for all parties involved.
I love that. So you got tired of people telling you that you can be a mall cop after getting out the military. So
Right.
take you and your gun and go and stand over there. Is that
Yeah.
what you say? Yeah. No, no, that's stupid. I get it. I get it, and it's frustrating, right? And it's just trivializing the service and the skills that someone has afforded from being in the military. Okay, so that makes sense. So tell us all, like, how does this stand out in the market, right? So how does it differ uh, from other businesses in the same industry?
Sure. So the two ways that it really differs, and I think what some people might even recognize is, so it's military skill translation. Sure, that's what it is on the surface level. But I think I'd take it one step further is if you look at most military skill translating platforms today, just look at most of them, is they take a very high level understanding of what the requirements, prime responsibilities, and capabilities of are within each military role. So that's your MOS, whatever, with the Navy designators, your Air Force designators, just looking at, okay, what are the specific requirements of this job, and then just carrying it out. Because to my experience, I used one. I think it was last week. I used one, and I put in my military MOS 11 Charlie, and I got nearly 10,000 jobs related to driving trucks
Mm,
of like consumer packaged goods like Hostess, Wonder Bread, etc.
right.
So I was like, okay, well, if you look at infantry, yes, there's a lot of move it from A to B sometimes. Yeah, that's in there. There's some logistics in there. So sure, I'll give you that one. But it requires at a deeper level, and what intelligence is seeking to develop is a more ground up approach to do that military skills translation so that you can extract the core skills that are innate to each military job and pull it into any outside industry. So like even for example, one of the jobs that I kind of enjoyed when I got out of the infantry or out of the army, I went into social work.
Okay.
And so on a surface level, probably don't see an immediate connection. But what you can extract the value from there is being in the military, particularly in infantry. That's a very, it could be some high tension situations, some
Right.
crisis navigation and things like that. So when you move that over into, case management, when you're dealing with a DM 3700 clientele that have dual diagnosis situations where they're battling from mental health issues and substance abuse, you might have some issues, where
Mhm.
you might need to be able to maneuver or navigate the situation with a little bit more finesse than normal. So those sort of skills that I had grown and kind of cultivated while I was in the military were a perfect sort of transition into the role of a social worker. It was just being able to navigate that.
See, now that's dope. That's super dope. I like that. I like that. And it's just marrying the two, which is good because I
Yeah.
find it so hard, especially for individuals that has been doing a job for so long. All right. They really don't know the value of it. They're just focused on that mission. This is your mission. You just need to do this and do this. But all of the type of skills it take to do the mission, that is its own subset of another job. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Or another career, if that makes sense. Oh no, that's beautiful. So beautiful, excuse me. So can you share with us a significant challenge, right, that you face while building this program, and how did you overcome it specifically?
Significant challenge. I would say one of the biggest hurdles that I had to overcome was, I guess, the lack of knowledge across the entire military. Like I said, my experience was limited to being in the army, being in infantry at that. I wasn't HR, I wasn't in the S shop or anything like that. So I had to really sit down and almost study like I was going to a board. I was preparing for some sort of presentation, looking at the TMs, at least the objectives and the requirements of every job, not exclusively to the Army, but
Mhm,
across every single branch. And I
mhm.
spent, I'd say, roughly 5 to 6 months looking at every single job in the military and
Wow.
identifying what are the skills required for this particular role. Okay, that's what it means in military lingo, but what would a civilian person read this and say that the job is actually doing?
Mhm,
And taking that information and moving it over in a way that at least I had that. So now, like, I have that from a computational perspective. I can plug in any military job across any branch and understand it to some degree what that job is, supposed to be doing.
mhm. Well, no, that's good. That's a start. You know what I'm talking about?
Right.
So how long you say you've been doing dealing with this, working on it?
That particular process took about 5 months.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. Man, hey, that's diligence, brother. Well, look, shout out to you for doing that. So look, how about this? Check this out. What I hear what it does, all right, and what it can do for individuals, but I really want to know your why and what is your vision for intelligent, okay? And like where do you see this going in the next 5 years?
So my vision. So as it currently stands, I'm working on getting the platform publicly accessible in a way that helps anybody who's leaving the military identify a career track into tech, excuse
Mhm,
me, and sort of understand the requirements along the way. So if they come into the platform, they'll say, "Hey, I was an 88 Mike. Can't even remember the full name. It's like logistics technician, truck
mhm,
driving essentially in the army, and I want to be a cybersecurity analyst."
okay.
So looking at what skills they have, extracting those, what skills they would need to go into cybersecurity, and
Mhm,
then being able to identify the almost the path of least resistance to get there. And generally, that's a certification. So,
mhm,
say, hey, I want to be a cybersecurity analyst. Well, here's some CompTIA sort of coursework that's done through Coursera, that's
mhm,
done through Hack Reactor, that's done through Code Platoon, etc. And like having these relationships with these training providers around the United States, so that whoever that person is transitioning out, here's a program. Knock on the door. They're expecting you. Go to the program, and then we'll see if we can get you situated at an employer who's seeking someone with that particular skill set.
See, I love that. I love that.
Thank you.
Yes, yes, yes. That's so dope because there's different organizations on different military bases, right? And particularly, I can think of the military family readiness. You have individuals that are counselors or people that can help you with your resume, which is good, right? That's super dope, and it's very useful. But think about how much time and effort. So, as we talked about this before, as far as formulating this pitch and getting this idea, what do you think it will save? Like, how would it help individuals essentially? Like, will it save them time? It save them, money, man hours? What do you think that it will save them in the long run to get with this program?
So I think the I think we've kind of really stressed on the user's benefits here. That there's infinite opportunity to explore careers outside of the military, non-adjacent to whatever they performed while
Mhm,
they were in the military. But the
mhm,
additional benefit, and I think this is where there's a relationship to develop with VSOs or veteran service organizations or even federal entities, is that this platform will give them a way to maximize their opportunity to help. This is like maximizing help.
mhm,
So you can have a client come in and say that they want to go through this transition process, and rather than kind of going through multiple engagements and having discussions of trying to unpack what a service member's actual interest is, there's this curated platform that's kind of designed to get to the root of that as quickly as possible
mhm,
and move the person into a way that they can be performing, whether that be going through coursework or whether it's trying to go and secure certifications, etc.
mhm,
They'll move them through that process. So a case manager or a counselor or something like that isn't necessarily tied up, not necessarily in a bad way, but just consumed with having to have multiple engagements to unpack that when you can have one or two, and then that moves you into this ability to be readily available to accept the next veteran who's in a position that needs a similar sense of help.
Love it. So let's be clear. We're talking about your program and you're developing within this program by using AI. And let's be honest, man, individuals are terrified of artificial intelligence. All right.
Right.
Let's be real. They think that as soon as you start working with it and dealing with it, all of a sudden here come the robots to come to get you. Okay. They're coming to get you. All right. First it was the aliens and then zombies and now AI. You dig? So how can you like what are your thoughts about using AI as a tool?
I think it's just that it's a tool. A lot of people also try to I say almost like bunch that type of fear set
Mhm,
with this idea that it will lead to the replacement of jobs and things of that.
mhm,
Sure, but I mean, if you look at any sort of recent credible study from I believe Harvard pushed out one recently, and McKinsey spent a good time. A lot of these consulting firms they spend this good amount of time to really address this sort of material. Is they found that it's not replacement of jobs; it's augmenting the nature of the work being done by those jobs. So essentially, the limited barrier, the limited level of barrier into doing the limited entry of barrier to those jobs will
mhm,
change. So I fail to find an immediate example, but something as say it's like a grocer or something like that.
mhm,
Yes, there's a relatively low barrier of entry into that role, but with sort of the added function of AI or everyone's been to Walmart and kind of seen how if there's anybody who's going to become a commerce, particularly in-person physical commerce, super giant, it's Walmart. But it's the amount of information they collect just means that the people who are operating it just need to know a little bit more to be able to do it. Not necessarily that they're completely going to be phased out. There's
mhm,
always going to be somebody who needs to be able to program, run, and maintain these machines.
mhm. So, and this is my thought, right, ladies and gentlemen, y'all can be mad at me, but I feel as though when individuals have a problem with new technology, I believe it's a level of fear and just lazy to understand it. You get what I mean? You're lazy. And then, but since you're lazy, you're afraid. And so now you're going to demonize it. Like it's wrong. You see, AI can tell you that the devil is coming. Like, what are you doing? Why are you asking? Okay, you see, no, that's your fault. You the dummy. But if you take time to understand how it can work for you, right? Maybe it can save you time. For example, you got individuals that say the internet is the devil. Okay. Or why? All right. You say that your cell phones is the devil. It can be a distraction. Anything can be a distraction,
Yeah.
but how do you use it? How do you use the tools to help save you time, money, and effort instead of saying, hey, that's wrong, don't do that? So essentially, you want me to work myself to death when I can use, let's say, AI to say, hey, I need a recipe for boo 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 boo, right? Or I want to write a new song. Help me out. And you got it, right? You don't got to spend 11 hours with that. And that's what it is. So when we're talking about this technology, man, and helping veterans, where do you see this really going, like in the next 6 months? Like, what do you need, right, in order for this to develop into, to kick off to, those heights?
A great time to plug what I'm working on right now. So,
Yeah.
for anyone who's listening, and that's whether that's through the live broadcast or if you share it or you let anybody know through a tag or however you mention it, if you head over to the website vetelligence.com, VETELLIGENCE.com. Right now, there is a link up right now. It says sign up at the bottom. So we're running people through, running candidates through a process now where we're working with our network of HR professionals and industry reputable firms to review these resumes provided by military service members, like to as thoroughly as you can. It's a three-tiered level of review. There's a review by myself, there's a secondary HR review, and then there's an industry review before it even gets back to the service member. And it's not being kind of done and computed in a way for them. It's being done in red line with notes, with instruction and advice on how to correct it, with
Mhm,
the option potential of being, kind of pulled out of the stack and potentially interviewed. So
mm,
I think this is a tremendous opportunity for service members. So like if you have the time, or if you're interested, if you're a transitioning service member, or if you already have a job and you're already looking at the door, like maybe there's something better that I
mhm,
can, if I just kind of use and
mm,
tweak my skills a little bit better, that are kind of how they're conveyed on my resume, just come over to the website intelligence.com, register, drop your resume within the registration, and we'll try to push you through the process as quickly as possible. Like I said, we're opening it up for 50, but depending on demand and how that goes, we'll, left or right.
So, all right, well, that's dope. So, here's the question: where are you at right now? I remember the last time we had the conversation. You didn't have many. Where are you at?
I'm just hitting into the lower 20s, about to
Okay.
hit into the lower 20, and
Mhm,
that's a real slow drag. I've kind of shifted a little bit of my focus, I guess, to your other question is like, what am I working on, and what is the kind of the vision now? Is like I said, getting out that initial minimum viable product platform that will be publicly available. It'll live on the website. Should be, I want to say July 10th is the
mhm,
tentative date that I'm going to look to put it out there, but it'll essentially operate in kind of the capacity we're talking about. This servicemen will come in over, they'll give some really preliminary basic information about their military history.
mhm,
That information will be carried into a conversation
mhm,
with our essentially military guide counselor, and that guide will
mhm,
walk them through the process if they want to go into tech, what tech career fields are, seem like a good option, and what are the programs that are currently open, enrolling, and available to them to make sure that they can hit that goal.
nice.
And then, like I said, and then we have an in part of there at the end of that 6 months where we're working to push out a five employer pilot program where
Mhm,
we're going to be moving, I want to say, nearly in about 3 months, potentially about 1,000 military service members to Kansas City metropolitan area employers. We already have a few who are engaged who reached out to me and said, "Hey, we want vets. We want them now.
mhm,
We'd love if they can come work at our organization." And said,
mhm,
"Listen, we can build a pipeline for you so that that can be a maximum sort of opportunity for you. Not necessarily." I mean, obviously, from a business perspective, I would love to continue that relationship, but I want to be assured that that employer is trying to recruit and hire military service members for the right reasons, beyond just needing people, just needing bodies. Like, do you value the ethic? Do you value and have a relationship with the military? Is there a way to create a channel that people are able to sustainably go into your organization?
Okay, no, I love that, man. That's super dope, and you have an intent to connect with that organization. I love that. So again, now you're talking about the we were in Kansas City where we met and everything, and you had an opportunity to talk to with my coworker Danielle. So and Danielle, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Lowry, we were on the news together a couple of weeks ago, just talking about VetBiz, right? She's the operations or director of operations with VetBiz. But from your perspective, man, what has VetBiz done for you?
If I had to be honest, it's vet biz is an opportunity to just to be frank and keep it real about the business, because I think a lot of times, from an entrepreneur sort of perspective, it's you get a lot of information that you almost have to either go find yourself, or you have to kind of navigate and figure it out, and that's probably one of the bigger challenges. But that relationship with vet biz is kind of, I can present an idea, say I can go to Danielle and say, hey, I was thinking about doing this, um and literally maybe in like 30 minutes or an hour, I'm going to get like what would amount to 2 pages of questions, like, why are you doing that? Who's going to pay for that? Are you sure about that? Did you look at the CAGR? Did just every acronym, every, so it's like really being challenged in a way that makes sense, that I can maximize the potential of the business. So it's really having that opportunity. It's almost like VetBiz is kind of like a co-pilot in the business, so that they're working to help me ensure that I'm, pushing this in the right direction, at the right velocity, and with the right intent.
There we go. No, super dope. So, man, I want to give a shout out to everyone that's there, from Danielle, Mitch, Damon, and Allie, right? A great team out there getting it, right? They're really getting it. They're really getting it. Hey, and so look, ladies and gentlemen, just a little bit about that before I give it back to you, Zach. So what I want to do is let you guys know the intent for VetBiz moving forward. Okay, the goal is to spread out and widen our reach as far as operations to help more vets like Zach that are transitioning out or thinking about it, and then say, look, I just want to give back. And there's so many reasons why that they want to do it, but they don't have the resources, they don't have the contacts, they don't have the just the intel as far as what to do. So think about it. Individuals that get out the military and they say, hey, look, I want to start my own business, just searching around and how much money it costs for a counselor, how much money it costs for a lawyer, marketing, and all that, or just someone to just help you to navigate this idea and to focus it down. And what we do this for zero cost. All right, zero cost, so that when individuals transition out, they don't have to think about how much money they have to spend to go into this business, or at least to get a jump start. So instead of them spending that money, asking people for money, or even tapping into their retirement or whatever they save, we can help them to get to the place they need to be at zero cost. So, but what I need from you all, if you guys are interested, what I need for you all to help us to manifest and to grow this operation. And if this is something you want to do, go to vetbiz.com/donate. All right, /donate, so that you can be a part of this unit. That's what we're doing. So we got Southern Illinois, all of Missouri, and Kansas. So it's a large reach. And so we're just trying to do our part. And if you do, if you want to, go to vetbiz.com. All right, /donate. All right, Zach. So look, man, I got another question for you, right? This is going to be my last one for you. So if you can give one piece of advice, right, to an aspiring entrepreneur who wishes to start their business, like what you're doing right now, what would it be outside of vet biz, right? Like what would you tell somebody, like, yo, I really want to go for it into the tech industry and all this other stuff, and I want to do it on my own? What would you tell them?
Hmm. Like somebody wanting to start their own situation, their business venture.
Mm-hmm.
That, one, I interestingly enough, the anniversary of me thinking of this company is 2 years ago yesterday.
Oh,
So I
wow.
think
Mhm.
so one of the biggest things I would say for any entrepreneur who's trying to go into a space, particularly, veteran or non-veteran at this case, would be understand the problem you're actually trying to solve and speak to people to understand if that's really a problem. Because a lot of times, I mean,
Mm,
you could be sleeping in the middle of the night, wake up, cold sweat, wake up. You know what? This idea, this is it. I'm gonna create uh, VR for, I don't know, VR for X at
mhm.
this rate,
Yeah.
and then you really get to talking about it, and you realize, none of your friends, none of the people you associate want it, but that might not be they might not be the demo for it. So
Mhm.
then you go to somebody, be like, well, it's to help people with this problem. Well, you go talk to people who have that problem, and then you go to, they're like, nah, it's not that big of a deal. And then
Mm,
you really can just save yourself so much time. And I think
mhm,
that's where a lot of people, they get the idea, they get the backpack and run out the door,
mhm,
rather than having some of that much needed dialogue and conversation before you fully invest. You end up, you go win some pitch competitions,
mhm.
deploy some capital, do all these things before you realize if you're solving a problem that people actually want solved. That's probably the
Mm.
biggest.
Yeah, I love that. So some good marketing research.
Yes.
Love that. Love that. Man, thank you so much, man. Well, look, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of the Lion's Den with Seth. So, what I want to encourage you to do is to make sure whatever it is that you're doing, you go for it. Surround yourself with individuals that are A, doing it, and B, want to support you in it. All right. For example, Vet Biz, or just holler at me because I always want to see you unravel your own gifts. All right. Just like I was telling Zach, the first thing I said after he gave his pitch, I said, "So what's your why?" Right. And then so he was still staying kind of techie. Right. I said, no, 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 no. Like, why do you want to do that? And ladies and gentlemen, if you cannot connect to the why, if your why isn't big enough, you get what I mean? I need you to go back and reassess it because sometimes individuals want the results of the why, but the why itself it's going to supersede that and it's going to go past that. That's what you need to do, right? That's what you need to do, especially after transitioning out the military. You were able to serve your country, so now how do you continue to serve outside of the military? I want you to think about that. But ladies and gentlemen, this has been a great episode. We appreciate y'all. Don't forget, hit the share, subscribe, and we will see y'all on the flip flop. Right on, right on. Later.